Hey guys, this is E with Scrapbooking with Me, and we're going to continue on with our January journal. Now, I will link the video below where I made this cover, and this is made out of one of those. Let me find it. Let me find another one. I think I got one over here. Maybe not. This is part of one. You can see it's just one of those folders, mailing folders that the E-Club kits come in. That's what this is made out of. And this is going to be my January folio or journal, whatever you want to call it. Now, I have gone ahead and folded. I've just got one little crease right there, and I'm not going to worry about that. If that bothers you to have that crease, you could always put a piece of lace on the inside. That doesn't bother me because the paper is going to cover it up when we put our papers in there. So, just going to press it around a little bit. So that's where we will sew in our signatures. We'll have a pocket over here and a pocket over here, and then we'll sew our signatures in right there. I do have some of this paper that I will be loading up. It should be up by the time this video is loaded. I have a few packages of this paper left. They're not in any kind of big package. Some of them may have 4 of this one, 2 of this one, different ones, but I just had bunches of extra left over, and I thought you guys might want to share in that, so I'll let you have it for what I paid for it. Alright, so I'm going to lay this aside. What I need to do now is I need to dye some paper. So you can see I've got my old bags out here. I can't even think today. I've got so much on my mind right now. My daughter just left, and Alicia, she just left. She brought a ton of Christmas presents over that she has bought for everybody. And she said, "Mom, can you help me wrap these?" I said, "Sure. Let's get them done." So that's what we have been doing. Now, Patty, and I hope I don't say your name wrong. It's Patricia Vinemont, I do believe. Or Patty Pockets, as a lot of you might know. She sent me this, and it's Stanz, and she created this solution, and she sent me this to do some dyeing of my papers. So that's what we're going to do. Now, I don't know, it doesn't say, but I shook it up a little bit. Hopefully that works. I hope I didn't do it wrong. Ooh, there we go. Start to say I might have to wait and let my husband open it for me, but it opened pretty easy. And I'm going to try my best to not get this everywhere. Now, I don't know what solution that is actually made out of, so I don't know that I'm going to use these brushes to dye my paper. Let me look and see what I have. Let me see if I've got some of those foam brushes, and we'll do that. I do. I have a ton of foam brushes, so we'll use that. Ooh, it's a nice thickness. Now, I think at one time she said this was a mixture of a kind of an adhesive and a stain. So I think. But you'll need to contact her, and I will put her link to her YouTube. And I think she has an Etsy store down below. It's a nice consistency. So let's just see. And I think you can put layers on there if you want it a little bit darker. I watched Tina stain some things with this, so I think that's what you can do. Now, as you guys know, I don't dip and stain my papers. I don't dip them. I do all of my papers this way. Now, the only thing about this is, with it having an adhesive in it, I'm not going to be able to stack them on top of each other. So, I will have to stain them and then lay them separately somewhere. So when you're using this, don't stack your papers on top of each other because they're going to glue together since it has a little bit of adhesive in there. And this is just a paper out of a book page, notebook. It starts out of a book page. I told you my mind is just shot right now. Okay, now let's see if I can get it up off of this. I may have to put like some plastic or something down so I don't tear everything up. So that's what it's going to look like right there. So let me figure out what I can do with these. I'm going to go hang this one up. I'm going to hang it on my wire and use a little tie, so let me do that. Okay, we'll dye a few more with these. And this, I think, here again, I'm supposing, I didn't get any information with this. I'm just having to go by what I have watched her say, and then what Tina. I think this leaves a little bit of a shine, I do believe. I don't think it's matte. I think it leaves just a little bit of shine on your paper. There again, like I said, I'm not sure, so don't quote me. But I think you can dye just about anything with this, even after you've made it. If you wanted to go over and put some color to something, you could definitely do that with this. And I'm not sure how she put hers down. I think she kind of painted it on like I'm doing. I don't know for sure, but I think, you know, that works fine with me. Okay, let's do this one. I would just make sure that you protect your surface anytime you're doing any kind of staining. Just protect your surface if you know, don't want to get stains and things all over everything. I always put lots of these bags down, and you could always use like freezer paper, things like that. I'm really anxious to see what kind of texture this gives. With it having that glue in there, I'm thinking it's going to give it a really nice texture. Okay, I'm going to peel that one up and go put it over there. All right. Okay, I'm going to fold that up, and then we're going to do some different colors. Now, I've had a few people that asked me when they saw this the other day, does it leave your paper sticky or something else they ask? And the answer is, I'm not real sure. I'm going to link Patricia's YouTube, and you can go over and ask her that. Until I get mine dried, I'm not sure. But just go over and check hers out. I'm sure she has a YouTube video on it where you can get all of that information. Okay. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to dye. I'm going to lay that one over there. That'll be designated for that dyeing. I'm going to dye some just copy paper. And I like to dye my copy paper because that's what I like to use to do my journals with. Now what I use is, excuse me, I use my reinkers, the ones that, the Distress ink, regular ones, the ones I bought many years ago. I use these in a little container like that. This one is called frayed burlap. And then I put water in there. And I just get it to the consistency that, or the brightness or darkness or whatever you want to call it, that I like. Sometimes it may be lighter, it may be darker. I may have to add a little bit more water or a little bit more ink. I never know until I put it out on my paper. And see, that looks like mud. And the reason being is because my brush had a little bit of a different color in there. But it won't look like mud long. Once I'll put some more ink in there. Now these brushes, I don't have any idea where they come from. Truthfully. I got them many years ago, and then I did get a set from a friend not too long ago. But I don't know who sells them. I know you can find them on Amazon, but they were pretty expensive the last time I looked. I think some of these have Clarity stamps on them, and then some of them have scrapbook.com on them. So scrapbook.com, you might could find them there. I'm not sure. So I don't know if I'll be able to link these or not. If I can find a link, I'll definitely put that down there for you. Now, I'm not happy with this color for some reason. So what we're going to do, this is called brushed corduroy. So we're going to put some brushed corduroy in here. And this is the way I do. I just kind of keep experimenting until I get to the color that I want. And I put my papers right on top of each other. That's better right there. That other was a little bit too muddy looking. And that's frayed burlap for you, because frayed burlap has a little bit of green and different colors in it. So but I like this a little bit better. Now, I will tell you this. I don't like to dye with coffee because I don't like that continuous coffee smell. I love coffee and I drink it every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. But as far as smelling it continuously on my papers, I don't like that. So I dye my papers with inks and with watercolor and different things like that. And then they don't have any smell whatsoever on them. And I can dye them like this, straight on top of my desk. I don't have to worry about, sitting it out somewhere and letting them dry and spreading them all out all over the house, that kind of thing. I just stack one right on top of the other. When they dry, they separate on their own. So I like that part of it too. And you can put a little more, a little less. Just build up the color like you want. And I'll probably, when this gets down a little bit, I'll probably put a little bit more of our brushed corduroy on there to bring in a little bit more of that brown. But I like that color right there pretty good right now. And this has a really good texture once it dries. I will try to remember to link a couple of videos where I did some more dyeing of some papers earlier in the year. I'll try to remember to link those where you can see actually after they dry what they look like. And see, I just continually stack them on top of each other. It doesn't hurt a thing. They don't stick together. They don't tear. I've never had any issue with them. They come apart real easy. And see, I kind of like that spotty look. Sometimes I'll just dab it on there and let it look spotty. Spotty. That's not a word, but we're going to use it as a word today. Spotty. Spotty. See, to me, sometimes that looks good, just doing that. Oh, come on. And I just do a lot in one color, and then I change over. And I lay these over under my fan and let my ceiling fan dry them. They dry just in a little while. But if I do them late in the afternoon like this, then by morning they're nice and dry and ready to go. So tomorrow we'll be able to use these to finish our January journal. And if you're going to do a January journal with me, I'm going to do a journal for every month of next year. And if you're going to do a journal with me, then don't forget that I will have lots of free digitals that you can use in your journals. So don't forget that part. As a matter of fact, I have 3 more free digitals that I'll be putting up later on in the week. And you will be able to download those and use them in your journals or mini albums, whatever you'd like to do. I've just got to get them finished. Now I'm just going to dye a few pieces of this. I like to use these in my journals. This just came out of a notebook that I had partially used, and they had some pages left in it, and I always like to grab those. Wow, look at that. It's grabbing a... Can you see that? Can you see those little dots on that? Look at those little dots. I don't know what it's grabbing, but that's wild. Now, I will tell you, don't use this brush and brush hard on paper, on just regular paper, because it will make it tear or fray. I'm just barely touching the paper with this brush. If you touched it very hard and rubbed on it very hard, I'm sure it would tear or rub a hole in it, because this is just thin paper. But see, in the wintertime, this is the way to go on dyeing your paper, because I don't want to get outside. I don't want to have to make up buckets and dip my stuff in. I just rather do this. You can also dye your laces similar to this. And if I think about it before I finish, I'll do a little bit of dyeing of a lace. Just a particular lace. I probably won't think about it, and if I don't, I'll try to come back and do that tomorrow when we start putting our journal together. It's real quick, really quick. Takes very, very few minutes. Okay, we are almost, ooh, come on, come apart. And I had someone that said, well, I would dye with reinkers, but they're very expensive. Now, I have to kind of disagree with that, just simply because I have had these bottles of reinkers for probably 4 or 5 years, and I have been doing this with them. You only have to use a few drops, so it's not like you're using a whole bottle to do your dyeing. I mean, you see how many sheets I've already dyed with this, and I've still got a lot to go. So you can do lots of dyeing with the bottles that you get, and they're like $4.99, something like that. So to me, that's not expensive at all, considering, if you use coffee or tea, you're having to use a food product that you bought in town somewhere. So I'm going to dye a few of these. These are just half sheets that I get. Sometimes when I print off something that only takes half of a sheet, I will go ahead and cut the other part up, and I use it. I reuse it, I should say. You can dye book pages like this, material, lace, trims, seam binding, anything that you can think of, just about, you can dye like this. And I love the little extra wrinkles that it gets. Love that. That doesn't bother me. Okay, we have emptied this. So what I'm going to do is just empty my brush out the best I can. I just pat it off on my paper there. And then I'm going to wipe this out. Try to get that color out of it. And I just have a little baby wipe here. And then I just take the wipe and wipe my brush off a little bit. And I usually take a paper towel if I had one. If I had one right here in front of me, I would. Let's see if I got a paper towel right back here. I do. So then I'll take a paper towel. Now you could take this to your sink and rinse it out if you want to. I don't go to that extreme. There we go. I just kind of wipe it out a little. And then if I feel like it's still got too much in it, I might take it and run some water over it. Okay, now I'm going to take this over and set this down under my fan and let these start drying. Now, I will warn you, if you're particular about your hands, this does kind of get your hands in a little bit of a mess, but it washes off. Some good soap and water and it'll wash off. Now, this is called Peacock Feathers. I love my blues. Alright, we're going to use that to start with and see if that's enough. Yeah, it's pretty strong, so I think that's going to be enough. And I usually have a different brush for my different base colors, not for every one. But you can see I have blue and pink and brown and purple, all of that. So, and then I just use another one of my bags and I start coloring that. Isn't that pretty? Woo, I love that. And if you feel like that's too dark, you can always go back and put a little bit more water in it and lighten it up. You can dye your little doilies like this as well. Paper doilies or material doilies. Okay, so you don't need to see me do every sheet of paper. So what I'm going to do is I will do this color. I mean, you've seen how I'm doing this color. And then I will mix up another color. I'll probably mix up purple next. And I'll come back and show you how that looks. And then we'll kind of go from there. That way the video won't be like hours long. But you'll still get the gist of how this works. Alright, that's going to do me for the blue right now. And I may do more later, but for right now I'm going to stop on that one. And we're just going to wipe this out a little bit. And then we will clean our brush off a little. I'll go wash them after I completely finish. But for now, that's good enough. Now, I think I want to do some purple. So I'm going to take this blue, going to take the bag and all. And you could use old newspapers. I don't know what all you might have laying around. You could definitely use some like grocery bags, things like that. Just recycle things and use it under these to put down, to put your papers on. So I'm going to go put this under my fan, let these dry. Okay, let's do a few of some purple. This is called Shaded Lilac. And this is pretty vibrant, so I'm going to use one dauber. And then this is just one of those Dollar Tree little bowls, plastic bowls. Now this had a different color on there, so I may be making mud. I don't know, but I'm gonna go with it. We'll see what happens. We may have to put a little bit more. I put quite a bit of water in there. I'd like to have a little bit more color, I think. Because this is gonna dry a little bit lighter than what you're seeing. Alright, let's see if that's a little bit better. Yeah, that's a little bit more color. I don't want it to be too deep purple, but I just wanted a little bit more color. We'll just use that. Oh yeah, that's going to be pretty. I don't know if it shows up the same color in the video as it does here, but I love that. It's just a pale shade of purple. Now sometimes I won't even turn my paper over. I will just let the inks soak through all of it. One side will be a little bit darker than the other, and that's fine with me. So you could do that if you want to. If you don't want to flip them over, just leave them. And I like to do some different little valleys and have some ink in them so that it will, you know, soak up and be a little bit darker in certain areas, a little lighter. You can put doilies down on top of this and then dye over them, and it'll give you that texture look of a doily. And I'm not even flipping these. I'm just going to go with the flow. I need lots of paper, so. Alright, I'm going to finish this one up, and then we'll come back and we'll grab another color, or we may do some watercolor. I don't know. We'll just come back and do something. Okay, there is a big stack of purple goodness. Now, it'll show up a lot better once it dries, but that's just about the right tint that I want right there. So I'm going to lay this under my fan. All right, these are some metallic watercolor, and we're going to do a few sheets with this. I think it's pretty when you get it all said and done. And I think I'm going to start out with the pink and just wet it well. You can wet all of them if you want. I only wet the ones that I'm going to use. And the first few you may have a little trouble with. It doesn't show up that great because you have to actually kind of get the watercolor started. Because you know it's dry pads and you have to just kind of go over it a few times to get it started. But it makes a pretty pink color. And it's really shiny when you get finished with it and it dries. And you can even just pour a little bit out on there if you want to. I have already used all of the ones up that I had like this before. I use them really fast. And the reason I use these big brushes is because they hold so much water. and it doesn't dry out quite so quick. You can see how quick that went on there. They hold quite a bit of water, so you don't have to worry about your brushes drying out real fast. But this is going to be a soft pink metallic. That is going to be pretty. And I will show you some of these tomorrow when they get dry and we start putting them in our journal. I'll show you some of the different colors that we got. And again, if you want this darker, you can let some water sit on your pans or your little pots, or you can go back over it once it starts drying. You can go back over it and just keep adding your color. Let's put a little water on this one. Let it sit for a minute. And let's do a little bit of this one right here. That makes a really pretty one too. I think it's kind of a gold, but it makes a really pretty one. And you may not can see very much color on the screen. I know it's harder to see on the screen than it is for me, but it's turning out just about like I want it on here. I think you can see a little of it. Not a lot. But that's just about the right color for me right there. I don't want it too pink. I'm really after the metallic more than I am the color. I'll hold it up in a minute and let's see if you can see any of that shine. I don't know if we'll be able to see it or not. No, not until it dries. Right now all you're seeing is the water. But when it dries, you'll be able to see it. Okay, let's do a few more. And you can do this with regular watercolor too. You don't have to have metallic. I just happen to have this one, and so that's what I started using. I think I'll do one more in this color and then I'm gonna switch over. And I know you're saying, well, that's not any color at all, but it really is. It's more than you think. Put those brush strokes in there. Okay, now I'm going to put this other color right down on top of this. I'm not going to worry about separating them because I don't care if one side's pink and the other side is gold. That doesn't bother me. I'm just going to wash my brush out a little bit so I don't contaminate my paints. Look at that. That's pretty, is it not? That is pretty. Now I've got it slopped all over my pan here, but I can clean all that up when it's over with. That's a pretty color. See if I can clean up some of that now. This looks, when it dries, it looks almost like a pearl. Very pretty. And I like my brush strokes in mine, but if you don't, you could always wet it a little bit more and put a little bit more water to it, and then you wouldn't get the brush strokes like I am. But I like that. It doesn't bother me. I'm getting a little bit wild. Got a little bit of color in that one beside that I didn't want. Okay, there we go. Now, do we want to do any other colors out of here? Okay, I think that might be the last colors that we do out there, and I'm just going to leave that open so that it'll dry. And it keeps it from mildewing if you leave it open while it dries. So we're going to set this aside. I'm going to go lay these over there. Now this has a lot of pearl essence in it. I know you can't, well, you might can see a little bit of that. So I'm not going to waste that. I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to try it. I'm going to kind of clean my brush up a little bit with just on here. We're just going to try something. This may not work. If it doesn't, it's fine. It's not a big deal. This is Distress Oxide, and this is in Vintage Photo. And I may make mud. If I do, it's just going to be mud. I really don't care. I'm just going to put a little bit of that in there. Looks a little bit brown. It doesn't really look muddy. Ooh, it's a rich brown. And it's going to have that metallic in it. I like that. I'm liking that. That's going to dry really pretty. So I don't mind that at all. I may have to do that again. It's a happy accident, isn't it? Oh, I can see the pearl essence in this too. That's crazy. Wow. It shows up better in this than it did in just the watercolor paints. And like I said, I know you can't see it right now, but when it dries, you'll be able to see it. Okay, that is all I think I'm going to do with that color. I'm probably going to do more, but that's all of my ink that I had mixed up. I only mixed a small amount. So I'm going to lay this over and let these dry. And then I'm going to show you how I dye my laces, and we will be finished for today. Okay, now I know you guys probably know how this works. You've probably done this before. But let's see what color I want. I think I want brushed corduroy. I'm just going to put a small amount, not very much, just a few drops, because it doesn't take much on your laces and trims. Then I'm going to add a little bit of water. And then we'll mix that up. And that may be a little bit too dark. Don't know. Then I'm just going to put this trim in a bag. And this is a plastic bag, just a lunch bag. And you're going to pour that in there. And then I seal it up well, and then I just smush it around. Smush it. Until it gets all over it. And if you want it darker, or if you want it lighter while it's wet, go ahead and put more water in there. But I kind of like that color right there. Now, you can see I've still got quite a bit of color down in the bottom of that. So you can take this out and just kind of wring the stuff out of it. Lay that out so it can dry like that. And then we can grab more. Let me see if I have any more right here, just close to me. Oh, that's blue. We don't want to dye blue. Oh, let's just dye this doily. That'd be pretty. Let's just dye this. Put it down in there. And this does get you quite messy, but like I said, this washes off with soap and water. I've not had a problem getting it off of me yet. And you see, I may need a little bit more water in there in order to get my doily, because this is quite a big doily. To get it all saturated, and that's fine if I do. I'll just add more water. Let's just put it in there and rinse that out while we're going. There we go. Alright, that's going to do better. And this doily must have been ironed and maybe a little, I don't know, some starch or something on it, because it's not taking the color real well. So I'll probably just let it sit in the color overnight. Or I may add a little bit more color to it. I don't know which. I think I'm just going to sit it down in there. It'll soak it up. There. There we go. So I'm just going to let that sit. And then there is our lace. As soon as that dries, we've got a nice, and I know on screen it doesn't look brown, but it's a brown, nice brown color. And look, isn't that pretty? But it will clean up. Don't worry about it. All right. Okay, guys, that is it for the dyeing portion of this. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gives you a few ideas. And like I said, I will link below the all the information for Patty's Pockets for this Stanz, and I will link below my other videos on dyeing papers and using watercolors. You can even use an old ink pad. I have a video for that down there where you can use an old ink pad that's almost dried up. Just add some water to it and go to town. If you don't have these brushes, just use some of the foam brushes and things like that to do. You don't have to buy those brushes. I just like them because they hold tons of water. But if you don't have them, don't worry about it. Use what you have. All right, we will talk to you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.